Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. Hope you all are doing well. Today we start the big daunting task of rewiring a majority of the car. By the time I'm done here, I would have rewired about 90% of the car. All that's gonna be left over is the original wiring for the lights, so the tail lights, stop lights, the headlights. That's all gonna stay where it is. If you haven't seen the last video, click somewhere up here. It's gonna go into a decent amount of detail of what I'm installing. And what I'm gonna be installing is basically a bunch of components from RiWire that are all designed to work together. But to get you guys up to speed, I'll go through a very brief overview of what I'm gonna be installing. If you look down here, these are the components that I'll be installing. This is the RiWire budget engine harness. This is just all OBD1 stuff. This is the RiWire race style fuse box, and this is the RiWire switch panel. Again, all these are designed to work together to plug and play. All that I really have to wire is this auxiliary out, and I need to wire a power to the fuel pump, a power wire to the cooling fan, a power wire to my lights, and then there's a fourth wire that basically I get to decide whatever I want to power. Gives you a little bit of flexibility, but overall, this is designed to just run simply the engine. Inside the car right now, it has the OEM fuse box. I have the OEM underhood fuse box as well. And there's just a lot of extra wiring that's left over that I'm not actually using, a bunch of circuits. It's just a bunch of weight. If you guys look under the steering column here, it's just a rat's nest of wire. So this is going to eliminate a lot of that unnecessary wiring that's just dead weight. So basically the goal is to minimize a lot of this wiring, simplify it, clean it up. And in this video, we're going to start by removing the OE engine harness, starting to remove the interior harness, the interior fuse box, the underhood fuse box as well, and removing the battery, because that's going to get relocated and that'll be in a separate video. But for this video, it's just going to be removing the existing wiring and then getting the new wiring in place, because I did end up deciding to use an OEM dash. So I have a really junk OEM dash that I have at my dad's house. I'm gonna go back and pick that up and basically just try to make use of what's left over of that dash. It is pretty beat up, but I think I can fix it up, make it look somewhat decent. That way I can mount my switches onto the original dash. I can wire up a master switch on the left side of the dash here. And then I'm gonna have to also build a panel on the passenger side to basically mount my ECU, mount the new fuse box, mount a circuit breaker for the alternator. So without further ado, I am running out of time. I need to get this done as soon as possible. So let's get to work. All right, so I took the front right fender off. It is covered in dirt and old dead grass from turn 9 at good old Gingerman. But I took the fender apart because I forgot where these harnesses going through to the interior were going. So I remembered I routed some wiring out here, and this is for the headlights, or basically just the exterior lighting, and the cooling fan on the radiator. And this particular harness out here just goes a dead end into the door, so I'll be just popping this off, pushing it through, and then we can get to removing the rest of the interior. Everything is off in the engine bay, and battery, of course, fuse box, everything is gone. All the wiring is moved from the front, I guess half or quarter or this area of the car. Now we're moving on to the inside. All right, took a little bit of fighting, but I ended up having to drop the steering column so I can get the interior harness out. But all the interior harness and the firewall, the underhood fuse box, it's all taken out now, and that is all sitting right here in this big pile of just some useless wires and some very important, but It's out now. The ignition switch and the turn signal stock and the wiper stock are all going to come off next, and along with the wiring for the ignition switch there. And then I'll go ahead and bolt that back up right up here, and then we can start taking measurements for a panel that we're going to build on the passenger side there to mount the ECU, the new fuse box, etc., etc. All right, up next I have to remove the stock here, and from what it looks like I have to remove the hub, and then I can actually pull this off, and it looks like there's 3 screws or bolts, looks like screws, inside the actual lock in here that will allow me to basically just slide this whole unit completely out this way, and that's why I need to remove this first. All right, so I got the stock off here. Pretty simple, 3 screws right through there. Now the ignition lock cylinder, obviously I won't need this anymore because we're using the whole wire switch panel. But it looks like it's being held on by these 2 fasteners that don't have anything on the heads here. So I'm gonna have to take out the Dremel, grind a slot in here so I can use a flathead to just turn these out. And then that should remove the whole ignition lock cylinder from here. And if you guys look here, the actual standard mount for the stock, I'm gonna actually be using this to be able to mount my tablet. So I'll just build a kind of a mounting bracket that's gonna come up here, and then I'm gonna have that bracket have these holes drilled out in the back, so then it's just basically gonna mount like that, and it'll look really good. And if I need to bring it back a little bit, like back here, rather than being up here, I can just build my bracket to come up here, bend backwards towards the front of the car actually, and then come back up, and then it'll mount a little bit farther back if I wanted to do that. But other than that, I'll grab the Dremel and we'll get this thing removed. All right, now we got the stock and the ignition cylinder removed. Here's all the old stuff here. So again, we're gonna be building a bracket right here using the original mounts for the stock to come up and hold the tablet, which is gonna be my poor man's dash. Basically, this is just ready to get bolted back up. You can put the steering wheel back on, and then we'll take some measurements over there on the passenger side, and that'll pretty much do it for tonight. All right, I've got everything on the interior removed from the car. So everything that was up on the firewall is now gone. Everything that was up on the steering column is now gone. If you look down there, you still see a harness, and that actually goes to the back, and you see it go to the taillights, the fuel pump, all that stuff. So that's still gonna remain there. And then my power to my lights and the fuel pump will just get spliced right in there. Of course, I'll go in there and eliminate any wiring that isn't needed anymore. What's really cool is to look at all the wire harnesses in this car in this giant pile right here. It's all going to be reduced down to just this. That's sitting in this little box right here. So that's a really good weight savings that we got going on there. Just a bunch of wires and circuits that are no longer used that are going to be downsized to just this. So really excited. It's going to clean this up real nicely on the inside and in the engine bay. So this is a good spot to pretty much stop on the wiring end. Time to take some measurements up here on the passenger side so that I can build a panel to mount the ECU here, the smaller fuse box, and on the fuse box it actually has a positive post where I'm going to be tapping into for the starter, a couple other things. But that panel that I'm going to be making will supply just an area for all that stuff to mount to. Hey friends, if you've made it this far, thank you for sticking around. This whole wiring job is going to be a pretty big project, so I'm going to be breaking it up into a whole bunch of different parts. This is going to be maybe a 3, 4, maybe even a 5 episode series of me rewiring this entire car. I'm making good progress on it now, so these videos are going to get popped out one after another hopefully quickly. We'll see how long editing takes. I'm gonna be back on the road next weekend already. So right now my actual goal is to have the car running before I leave. But in the meantime, the videos will trickle in. So that way you guys can stay up to date with how the car is doing. So if you enjoyed the video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And go ahead and subscribe if you want to stay up to date with the channel and the build. And if you guys have any questions, go ahead and put them in the comment section down below and I'll do my best to answer them. Until then, I will see you guys in the next video.